Good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. The High Court has granted a request from prosecutors to drop all 47 corruption charges against Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi in his case involving Yayasan Akalbudi funds. The Deputy Prime Minister was granted a discharge not amounting to acquittal as the MACC is still investigating the charges. This is after Zahid had sent letters of representation to the Attorney General and the Anti-Corruption Agency earlier this year.
In his judgment, Justice Datuk Colin Lawrence Sequeira said the extended time required for investigation was justified, as the representation submitted by the defence had also taken up hundreds of pages to be examined by the prosecution. A discharge not amounting to acquittal means Zahid could still face trial for the same charges in the future if the prosecution decides to reinstate them. He had faced 47 counts of corruption, criminal breach of trust and money laundering involving over 31 million ringgit belonging to Yayasan Akalbudi. The trial began on November 18, 2019, where over 100 days of hearing have taken place since then. Zahid's lead counsel, Datuk Hisham Tepoteg, said the defence team would file an appeal for a total acquittal by Tuesday.
A total of 93.2 million ringgit worth of assets were seized and surrendered in the investigation against former 1MDB General Counsel Jasmine Liu. Deputy Inspector General of Police, Datuk Seri Ayub Khan Maidin Piche, revealed among the assets include 2 Pablo Picasso artworks, real estate properties, watches and luxury handbags.
Nilai keseluruhan aset dan hartanah yang kita rampas adalah RM93.2 juta. Ini nilai semasa pembelian pada tahun 2013. So aset ni mungkin akan nilainya lebih tinggi lah sekarang.
Liu also has over 23 million ringgit kept in a bank in the US and another 13.7 million ringgit in another account that is kept in a bank in Singapore. According to Ayub Khan, police have seized a number of the assets declared by Liu that were kept in Malaysia, while for those overseas, works are underway to seize and forfeit with the aim of returning them to the government. Liu signed a statutory declaration on August 23rd to return the said properties and assets to 1MDB. The police has concluded its investigations against Liu and will now hand her over to other agencies, including the MACC, for further investigations. Liu is an associate of fugitive businessperson Joe Low. Ayub Khan said investigations also found that Liu had received a monthly paycheck of 40,000 ringgit belonging to 1MDB since May 2011.
Meanwhile, the police today confirmed that they had recorded the statements of Tan Sri Abdul Hadi Awang for his remarks on the Authority of Pardons Board and have proposed to the Attorney General's Chambers AGC to charge the past president under the Sedition Act.
Kita dah ambil statement dia di pejabat PAS Jalan Raja Laut 11.30 tadi. So ada 24 soalan yang kita kemukakan. Tan Sri Hadi yang menjawab 5 daripada soalan tersebut. Baki soalan itu 19 lagi akan dijawab di mahkamah. Kita tugas polis menyiapkan siasatan dan ketasiasatan. Kita akan panjangkan ke pihak AGC dengan cadangan untuk dituduh bawah atas hasutan Seksyen 4 dan juga 233. Sama ada akan dituduh, tak dituduh, setuju, disetuju, itu bergantung kepada penilaian pejabat peguam negara nanti.
Hadi is being investigated for a ceramah he made in Muar, Johor on August 26. During the speech at a Perikatan Nasional rally, Hadi is alleged to have touched on the jurisdiction of the Pardons Board and is said to have claimed that the way the country grants pardons to offenders is not in accordance with Islamic teachings. The Pardons Board in each state is appointed by the state ruler or governor, with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong appointing the board in the federal territories. Meanwhile, an investigation paper has also been opened against former Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin over his remarks at a recent ceramah. On Saturday, the Perikatan Nasional chairman allegedly claimed that it was haram to vote for Pakatan Harapan candidate Suhaizan Kayat in the Pulai parliamentary by-election. According to Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussain, Muhyiddin is being investigated under Section 505 in bracket B of the Penal Code for issuing a statement with intent to cause public fear, as well as Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act. He is expected to be called in for a statement soon.
In other news, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the hiring of foreign workers in barbershops, goldsmiths and the textile sector will be permitted due to urgent demand. However, he says only half the total number of applications received will be approved, as this is only a short-term solution.
Anwar said the government would look into long-term solutions via technical and vocational education and training (TVET) institutions. Meanwhile, Human Resources Minister V. Sivakumar said demand for foreign workers in the three sectors was high due to difficulty in finding Malaysians to fill the vacancies. He added that around 15,000 to 20,000 foreign workers were needed in these sectors. He said a memorandum regarding this matter has been prepared and will be presented to the Cabinet on Friday. The employment of foreign workers in the barbershops, goldsmiths and textiles was previously suspended in 2009 and then completely frozen in 2019.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has arrived in Jakarta to attend the 43rd ASEAN Summit, which begins tomorrow. He's expected to attend at least 11 meetings with heads of government and heads of world bodies during the summit.
He has 11 bilateral meetings scheduled, including with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, US Vice President Kamala Harris, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Anwar is leading the Malaysian delegation to the 43rd ASEAN Summit and related summits in Jakarta until Thursday, his second visit after the 42nd ASEAN Summit in Labuan Bajo. During the visit, Anwar will be accompanied by Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir and Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, as well as other government officials.
ASEAN should work towards building a comprehensive regulatory framework to increase trust in intra-ASEAN data sharing. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz says a strong and unified regulatory regime can help ASEAN reap its potential digital economy value, expected to reach $1 to $2 trillion.
The digital economy value within the region, within ASEAN, is expected to reach $1 to $2 trillion by 2030. This is up from where it is currently around $300 billion. Or to further increase FDI flows into ASEAN, which last year hit a record high of $224 billion, up 5%, even as the global FDI actually was reduced around 12%. So the rapid growth of e-commerce and availability of digital platforms and opportunity for the SMEs in ASEAN to increase their participation in domestic and international markets.
In terms of private intent data, Zafrul said about 50 million SMEs use Facebook to find customers, with 70% of them being domestic and 30% abroad. Zafrul said enhancing data flows will reduce transaction costs, promote sharing of ideas, and enable users to make use of new findings and technologies.
Time for a quick break. We'll be right back.
Nak maju ke depan? Rambut gugur tak boleh jadi penghalang. Pantene Hair Fall Control dengan provitamin dan biotin seperti menambah vitamin pada setiap helaian rambut untuk rambut sehingga 100% lebih kuat terhadap rambut gugur. Rambut kuat macam saya.
Misi kami di Plus adalah menghubungkan komuniti untuk mencorakkan masa hadapan yang selamat dan lestari, membudayakan amalan mesra alam sekitar, memperkasa ekonomi masyarakat setempat, menyumbang ke arah kehidupan lebih selamat dan selesa. Sertai kami dalam perjalanan demi masa hadapan yang lebih cerah untuk anak-anak kita.
Welcome back. Nearly 80 people have been injured in Taiwan after Typhoon Haikui made landfall on Sunday on the east coast. The storm, which has forced some 7,000 people to evacuate, is the first to directly hit the island in 4 years.
Amid torrential rain and high winds, officials say dozens were injured mainly by falling debris, while another 2 people in a mountainous region were hurt after a falling tree hit a car. Cleanup crews are currently working on restoring services after 160,000 homes lost power over the weekend. Businesses and schools remain closed on the island, while domestic flights and ferry services to surrounding islands were cancelled. Haikoi packed winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour, but no deaths or major structural damage have been reported so far. It has now weakened to a tropical storm and moved out into the Taiwan Strait, heading to China's southern coast.
Meanwhile, 2 people died and 2 were missing as torrential rains caused heavy flooding in central Spain. Several roads and train services in the Madrid region were also closed, as half a dozen bridges were destroyed by overflowing riverbeds. The 2 people died in the rural area around the central city of Toledo, where helicopters were sent to rescue people taking refuge on rooftops of their homes. Meanwhile, authorities said the 2 missing were a father and son who were in their car when it was swept into a river. The sudden downpour had turned roads into rivers of mud in the regions of Madrid, Castile, Catalonia, and Valencia. The rainfall, although still heavy in some places, was expected to wane later today. Over the U.S., weather conditions at the Burning Man Festival have begun to ease, allowing attendees to start leaving. Around 70,000 people were left stranded in the desert after heavy rains hit the area, but organizers say they are ready for a mass exodus from Monday morning local time. They have also confirmed that a man's death at the event was unrelated to the bad weather. The remote event site in northwest Nevada was hit with 2 to 3 months worth of rain in just 24 hours. From Friday to Saturday morning. Attendees were told to take shelter in the Black Rock Desert and conserve food, water, and fuel, while some chose to hike to the nearest town. But the ground is now dry enough for vehicles to avoid getting stuck in the mud. Despite recent challenges, organizers say they plan to carry on with the festival finale later today if the weather permits. Ukraine's Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov has been dismissed from his post. Announcing the news in his daily address, President Volodymyr Zelensky says it is time for new approaches within the ministry.
Rustam Umerov, who runs Ukraine's State Property Fund, has been nominated by the president as Reznikov's successor. Reznikov had led the ministry since before the start of Russia's invasion in February 2022 and has since played a key role in lobbying for additional military equipment. But his dismissal comes amid a wider anti-corruption drive in Zelensky administration, a move seen as essential to Ukraine's desire to join Western institutions such as the European Union. While Reznikov was not personally accused of graft, there have been a number of scandals under his ministry involving the procurement of army goods and equipment at inflated prices. Earlier this year, his former deputy had resigned in the wake of the scandal.
India's moon lander has successfully conducted a hop experiment on the lunar surface. According to the Indian Space Research Organization, the lander has exceeded its mission objectives nearly 2 weeks after its historic landing near the lunar South Pole.
The Indian Space Agency commanded the Vikram lander to fire its engines, raising itself by about 40 cm and made it land safely at a distance of 30 to 40 cm away. The experiment demonstrates the lander's ability to move and navigate the lunar terrain, a critical capability for future sample return missions and potential human expeditions to the moon. India landed its Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft, including a lander and rover, on the moon on August 23rd, becoming the 4th country to ever accomplish such a feat. The Vikram lander has now been put into sleep mode next to the Pragyan rover. They would both be waken up 14 days later on September 22nd. Till now, the rover has confirmed the presence of sulfur, iron, oxygen and other elements on the moon.
that is all we have for you on Awani tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Soraya Mia, and good night.